I started to look at children who might have speech issues. And that's when I encountered somebody talking about children with autism. And I was very curious, and I realized it's primarily a communication disorder. And this is, remember, early 2000, 2002, 3 or so, when there was not so much awareness about autism. I was very fortunate that there were one or two psychiatrists who were willing to let me into their chambers to say, come and talk to people. And one of the most interesting findings I had was then. They said children with autism will be running all over the place. I don't know how you'll get these recordings. Okay, because you can't running after them. So I said, I'll open up. I of course went with a very idealistic idea that I'll open up this computer. It's linked to the computer and I'll put a microphone. And here is what was shocking. The moment the kid with autism saw the computer and they saw things happening on the computer, they were happy to sit down. So something about machines attracted them. And in a matter of couple of weeks, I managed to record from so many kids. And doctors were amazed. They said, we have never managed to get this kid to sit here. But the moment you put in this computer, the kid comes to sit there. Normally, we are saying the child doesn't want to make eye contact. The computer is not a social stimulus, no? But a human being is a social stimulus. So the child file computer stays same. It just doesn't keep changing. And that's when I began to realize that kids with autism get anxious because of social stimuli. Okay?
Because it's unpredictable.
And they keep changing so much because they're dynamic. Okay? They like something which is predictable. And when I analyzed those recordings, I found that there were 7-year-old kids, 10-year-old kids who were still talking in a sing-song-like manner. Normally, a 7-year-old child or a 9-year-old child would not speak like that. And so I was very curious as to why they were speaking like that. And then I found this pattern in a couple of kids. Okay? And one of the things you notice when you do this acoustic analysis of these is that these signals have a varying, the frequency or the pitch goes from high to low. It's a lot like what you see in music. Okay, it sort of begins to follow the structure of maybe a melody. Okay, and they seem to respond to that. Something about that they liked. The frontal, the temporal, and the motor cortices are all important for speech production and speech perception. The frontal cortex is the part of your brain which is just above your forehead, right on top of the head. The temporal cortex is right above the ears. Okay? Now, what we certainly do know in the context of autism is that these regions structurally, what by that I mean, the way they develop and the connections between these regions are different, atypical as we call it in scientific language, in individuals with autism. Sometimes there might be overconnectivity, sometimes there might be underconnectivity. Both kinds of patterns have been seen. And therefore, because of these differences in the connectivity, the processing of the speech stimulus happens differently in individuals with autism. That's something that has been shown and seen in our work and the work of numerous other laboratories in the world that work on autism. So we see differences in structure and we see differences in function. Okay? So by function, we mean is the regions of the brain that are participating or that get activated when a particular process happens. So in this case, we're talking about speech production, or in the experiment that we conducted, speech perception. So even when they're listening to speech, how much of the temporal, frontal, and motor cortices are activated is different in autism. And so it's the extent, that is how much of it, and the level of activity, both are seen to be different. How about
you would start singing to children and say, instead of saying, चलो खाना खाने बैठते हैं या पानी पीते हैं, you say, खाना खाने आओ. So the child who might be playing on the floor will say, oh, she's saying something to me. First is just realizing that you are saying this to me. That's the first connection you want. Then you want to say, what are you saying to me? And then thirdly, am I supposed to respond to this? So at least you are able to get the attention of the child. So this is just the first message we sent out to the parents who had worked with us, that try this with children. Okay? And many of them started reporting back. This was all done very anecdotally, so we've not done it so systematically. Correct. But we found many of them came back saying, it's helping us connect with our children. They are responding. So we knew that was some step in the forward direction.